Emulating what the focus wheel and the little joystick consoles that you used to put on here. It's basically emulating that exactly. DJI made that plug and play, so in our instance it's also plug and play. Focus, iris, zoom are available. Zoom is only available on, I think, one of the DJI lenses right now that can zoom remotely. I think it's like the 18 to 30 or something. Lots of things are available via the menu, obviously, if you use this directly here. Run, mode, autofocus, recenter, they're all available from the wheels. The guys over at Ignite made this little handy spreadsheet here that shows you what all you can control with it on the different gimbals. Not all DJI gimbals are created equally, so some things are not able to be controlled. Pan tilt roll is controllable on everything. Focus, iris, zoom is controllable anywhere where the monitor could control focus, iris, or zoom. It's available now. We just launched it today. It's $950. Should be shipping in October if you're interested in it. And I can't think of what else. That's basically it. It works really well. I was surprised myself at how quickly it was able to set up. We thought I was waiting on instructions from the guys from Ignite, and I just plugged it in and it worked. So that's kind of all I have to do. If you're wondering who Signal Audio is, Signal Audio is a guy in Australia that designed this, that designed the electronics for it. Ignite did the housing, and yeah, I think that's about it. Anybody have any questions about it?
I missed what does that thing do?
What does it do?
Yeah.
It allows the inertial wheels to connect to DJI products. So through the transmission system. So this monitor is receiving video and it's also transmitting control to the Ronin4D.
So it's like a little protocol translator.
Yes. Yeah. So it works.
Similar to what you also make for like the Trinity control?
Yeah.
What's that called?
That's the RDX.
RDX. Okay.
So this is taking the protocols, the API from the wheels, and it's turning it into CAN, into DJI's CAN protocol. It's also smart and is able to recognize which gimbal it's controlling through transmission. And so then it sets up the features based on those.
So to recap, what different kind of devices can you control with the inertial wheels?
So with the inertial wheels, you can control with our receiver, which I don't see around. With our receiver, you can control Ronin2, Movi Pro,
Movi XL.
Movi XL.
Emote.
You need to use a special box, a special modified thing for the Talon head. But yes, you can control it.
Emotimo, yeah.
Sony requires the RDX, which we have set up over there.
So the RDX is for what heads then?
The RDX is Talon, FR7,
Maxima?
Maxima. I have a cheat sheet.
Maxima 30?
Yeah. In Trinity.
Yeah,
Trinity 1.
Trinity 1 and Maxima.
What's the latest on Trinity 2?
Ask Ari.
Okay.
Soon to be some other.
Yeah, Shotover hopefully soon. It can also do Defy EX cameras. You have to talk to Defy about it, but the receiver can work with those as well, and with Filmotechnic heads as well.
Amazing.
Yes, you can also work with Filmotechnic, but you just ask your Filmotechnic people about it, and they can make it work. They have a few wheels themselves, so generally it's bring your own wheels, and they'll bring the heads.
Is there any delay with the Canbuster because of the protocol translating that?
I haven't, I mean, it's honestly pretty good in my experience. I mean, these types of gimbals that are small anyway have a lot of delay just built in from the inertia of the tiny motor sort of thing. But honestly, it feels really good to me. In my testing of different heads, it feels like pretty low latency, all things considered. Yeah, I kind of want to take this thing with me when I have small shoots and just sit down and chill at the back of the room and operate it remotely.
So it'll know if you're doing like RS3 or the Inspire gimbal. It'll once you slot it in, it will recognize automatically which one it's working on. Interesting.
Sure.
Did you do the R3?
The Inspire 3, excuse me.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It does the Inspire 3 as well. Yep. So that's it for the Canbuster. I'll be talking through changes we're making to the TORQ head if you guys want to talk about that. Also, be sure to check out. We do have the FR7 hooked up over there. It has a ton of things you can control through the menu. I keep thinking people are kind of sleeping on the FR7 and what you can do with like remote cameras and stuff. Like if you need a car rig, like you're doing. Instead of doing a process trailer, I use that on a commercial. We just suction cup it to the outside of the car and we follow around in the vehicle. You're able to change everything with it remotely, focus, iris, zoom. You can go to the menu, you can format media, and you can do whatever you want. Literally, the whole camera is controlled through the wheels. You can even navigate the internal menu systems with it. We also have the game. And then Matt is going to show people the assembly room if you're curious to see it. It's right down the hall. Nothing too exciting that's happening in there right now these days. We built a lot of stuff. It's just sitting on shelves.
Do you want to mention maybe the RDX or say a little bit more about like that allowing us to integrate with the
So I mean, the RDX is really like it's very similar to a Canbuster in the sense that it converts the inertial wheels protocol to something else. But it has several different types of protocols that can support in it, and we're able to rapidly develop software for it. So if you have something, for example, someone came to us and they really wanted to control Libra head, so we were able to, in about a day, reprogram an RDX to control Libra head. Their protocol is really simple, it's just AB incremental integers, but we were able to do it in about a day. So, stuff like that. So if you have something interesting that you want to hook it up to, you know who the other party is, that box can help us do it really fast. We're always excited
I know we're all like varying degrees familiar with like the TORQ head, where it's at and all of that, but while we're all together, do you want to
Sure.
say a little bit what's
Yeah.
about? I don't know. Some of us are super technical and interested, and others are like, all right, I'm good with the topical survey, but
I'm happy to, any of you guys want to talk through some of the changes, I'm happy to run them down through you in specifics. But some of the major changes we've made, we've added cross braces into the hand posts here so that it's a little stiffer, as well as it adds accessory mounts. We're adding inputs and outputs to every axis, so if you take just rollout, it also has an input so you can put the receiver on it. So if you're hanging it from an easy rig and stabilizing it, and you want someone else to control roll, there's an input for that. However you build the head, every axis is going to have an input, as well as an IMU on it, so every axis is going to be able to be fully stabilized. We've been working on the stabilization algorithms for it in some virtualization software, and they're coming along really well. We're actually probably going to have 4 different algorithms for people to test when they ship it, and that's just, there's an IMU in here, there's an IMU in here. What those algorithms are is how those IMUs are combined in software for it to be able to stabilize itself. The cool advantage the other addition that's on the same topic is that we're making pan symmetrical on both sides. So the mounting pattern on the top is the same on the bottom. The advantage that allows you to do is you can change where the IMU in pan is, depending on what you're trying to do. So if you're in a studio application where you're just on a crane, everything is light and floaty, but you want to hit whip pans all the time, you can put the IMU on the outside by flipping pan upside down. And what that means is every time you pan, the IMU doesn't move. So when you have, like on a Ronin or Movi, for example, the IMU sits right underneath the camera. Every time you whip pan, what's going to happen is it's going to slosh the IMU. It's like you're taking a kid, blindfolding them, and having them hit a piñata. Over time, the more times you spin that kid around, the more off they're going to be. It's the same thing with the IMU. So we allow you to put the IMU on the outside, so that when you want to hit a whip pan, the IMU is not moving at all. It's just telling it where to go. So you're going to increase precision with that. But say you're then going to go to an armed car, everything's shaking and moving all the time. What's important to you is reduce flex and reduce how much flex makes it to the image. You can flip it over, and the IMU is going to be on the inside, so it's going to help counteract the flex that comes from the base of the system. That's most of the changes. This next one should arrive in October, So you can come visit. On Wednesdays, we're going to be doing sort of like open houses, so you can schedule a time, hit the chat bubble at the bottom of our website if you ever want to schedule a time to come visit and see how things are. We'll let everybody know once the new prototype is here and working, so you can check it out. The timeline is currently looking like December, January is when this is going to be start hitting some sets in places, so we can start doing more field testing with that. What else? Oh, one of the biggest requests we receive from people is they'd really love to be able to lock out the axes, so that if you're say you're going to put this on a Steadicam and you really don't want tilts, you just want to do roll and you want to lock tilt so it's really rigid. We're redesigning the axis locks so they have no play in them. That's not going to be in the October one. It's probably going to be in one around January. So we're sort of phasing out how we're designing things. Yes, I think that's the update on the TORQ for the most part.
Any estimate on when you'll have like a pricing?
Honestly, we're waiting to see
After development?
how things evolve over the next couple months, both internally and in terms of costs, because we really want to hit the features right. So there's always increased costs with R&D and stuff like that.
Yeah, add a new feature, fix a problem,
Right.
costs go up or down.
Yeah, so we are adding seals to all the axes. So for the most part, it is going to be sealed. Definitely from dust. We're trying to get some amount of water resistance in it. Waterproofing, probably not. Very few film equipment is waterproof, but it will have some amount of like dust and spray resistance to it. So that's pretty high on our list as we design it to make sure. The seals are also going to be replaceable on it. And the roll module is going to be self-serviceable, so you can take this off and clean the encoder on the inside. The roll is the only one that's going to have two seals. Every other one is going to have one seal. So the roll is kind of the hardest to seal compared to the others. But yeah, this next prototype is our first pass at the seals. There's like quite a bit in terms of tolerances and stuff with seals that we have to work through. But yeah, they'll be replaceable as well.
Is the weight changing at all for the next prototype, or is it about the same?
The weight is going up for the next prototype. So this one was not quite as rigid as we wanted it to be. So the goal for this next one was stabilization. So we increased the weight to get rigidity where we wanted it to be. So after that one, and we get stabilization, we're going to start shaving out and hollowing it a bit more to bring the weight back down once we can determine what metal is necessary and what metal isn't. So this prototype weighs about 14.5 pounds. The next one's going to weigh about 16 pounds. The goal is 12.
The Ronin2 with batteries empty is what, 12?
Yeah, like 12.5. Yeah.
So roughly the Ronin2.
Yeah, roughly the Ronin2. We've taken the battery weight and we've, put it elsewhere, I guess, is the idea. Any other questions?
What does it look like with the ring, the ready rig?
We haven't designed a ring yet. A lot of people are asking about a ring. One of the things we're kind of waiting on to decide about the ring is to figure out how well the stabilization and the motor torque works together. Because I think there's going to be there's going to be a lot of people that are going to use it sort of like a Steadicam, which is that you interact more directly with the camera. So where the ring really on the Movi is there so that because the motors are really weak on a gimbal like that size, so you can't touch the camera. So to control it, you use the ring to change where the base is. You point the ring that way, the camera knows you want to go that way. In our worlds, the motors are strong enough for you to touch them. So if you want the camera to go that way, you can hang this from an easy rig and you can just point it that way. And the motors are going to be able to sense your torque input and use that as the input to control the camera's orientation. So if you want to just pan and tilt it, you could put some inertia on pan and tilt, and then you could lock out the roll, and then you could just pan and tilt it directly on a rig. So once we figure out how well that works, we'll figure out what accessories are needed to make that work really well. Whether that's whether people want a ring, we'll do a ring. Pedro already has a ring that I'm sure he could adapt to it with his pro ring. It's very modular. So
But at the same time, basically what you're saying, since it's not like a Ronin 2,
right,
because it's using the Inertia sort of concept of adjusting, translating your input into a result or whatever, the handheld rig is just could be some sort of device coming right off the body.
Right.
Like you don't need a ring.
Not necessarily. Yeah.
Right. You just need to snap this on your ready rig or easy rig, and then just grab the body in a good way.
Yeah.
With some sort of handle of some sort. But you don't need to hold this and pan it. You can just grab this and pan it.
Yeah.
So it's for people out there, they're familiar with like Ronin 2 push pan and push tilt. Like that works just to reposition the camera. You can't really operate off of it. Whereas with this, it's going to work extremely well.
Right.
And so you're going to actually, it's much preferable to operate directly off the camera almost than it is some sort of translating device, which would be an external, like a ring or something. Yeah.
Because the ring is I mean, your window and your window smoothing are filtering your input. And I mean, there's always this sort of like trade-off between like how responsive do I want it to be and how much movement do I want it to smooth it out. In sort of a perfect world, you just grab the camera and the camera has enough inertia to where it's as smooth as you want it to be, but it's responsive because you're grabbing it directly. So we're trying to give you the best of both worlds. Other questions?
Balance.
Balance?
You guys ready for balance? Or
Are we
is
ready?
that ring is so small?
What do you mean?
Why don't you go over just balance
so
procedure?
the general
You can
concept
explain.
is, it comes from me doing Steadicam, is that you want it to be in dynamic balance. So in order to get it in dynamic balance, first we've designed the system itself to be balanced. So in software, we go and we look at, we put a circuit board over here, so it weighs a certain amount, so we add a little bit of metal over here, or we remove metal here, so that it's perfectly balanced in the sitters. So what you add on top of it, you'll then add the camera on top of it, and you want to balance the camera body, and then you'd add your lenses or your lens accessories on the front, and we have triangular and quadrant mounting points, and now we're adding more, so it's going to be up to 24 mounting points on the front of this. So you can mount one motor on the top, a second motor on the bottom if you just have two, and they're going to be balancing each other, or you can add them in three. So you could add 1, 2, 3 and put the motors in a spiral fashion, and that way they're in balance as well. The whole goal of this is that, one, we like the lens being nodal for pleasing purposes. It makes the image better. But two, if the lens is perfectly in the middle, it means it's not impacting the balance at all, except forward and backwards. So when you do lens changes, all you have to do is adjust these two levers and slide tilt forward and backwards.
There's only one balance adjustment on the
Right.
whole gimbal, which
Right.
is back and forth, right?
Yep. That's it. And so, I mean, yes, you may need to add some weights to your camera. You may need to
Move things around a little
It may
bit.
take you a little bit longer to get the camera body balanced itself, but once you have it balanced, throughout the day you're going to save time, and across the shoot you're going to save even more time because your lens changes are just going to be sort of a one thing, one and done every time.
'Cause he has a trinity, which is where his sort of his mind's at, right? With balancing.
Yeah.
So where this, even though it kind of might resemble like a maxima or a trinity or something because of the circle, where it's really different in concept is the fact that the camera never moves, and neither does the lens in relation to the center of the ring. Mm-hmm. So like on an AR or something like that, you can move the camera like up and down, like to find the right top and bottom balance for when you have the post sideways. So this essentially eliminates all that because the center of most of the mass is in one place always. The other things are moving around.
Right.
So there's, like he pointed out, there's like so many advantages to that, with the one disadvantage being like you don't have like a universal dovetail for every camera. You have to have a specific mount plate specific to the camera.
Right. And so this.
So every camera body would require its own mounting, and there may be one where we can mill a slot where maybe we can fit two cameras on one or something like that. But so the initial mounting of the camera and like layout might take you a little longer, but the once you're actually working,
Right. Should go much faster.
yeah.
That requires you to strip the camera down.
No, you could have the camera
Stuff, yeah.
You could have it all sort of built out. I mean, you definitely want to do it in a sort of balance. But in terms of coming out of this and going to like because this is also a tripod head, so it's a fluid head as well. So we can do massive dragging motors. You can put it on a dolly, so you can go. If you had this in a Trinity configuration, maybe you remove pan, you put this on a post, and now it's a Trinity. And you want to go off this onto a dolly for them to do a typical pan tilt studio shot. What I would do is you just put the pan back on and you slap it on a dolly, and then you can pan around. The one thing that's going to take you a long time to rebuild is if you want to go from this fully built configuration and you want to go straight onto a shoulder. Like you want the camera body right here, yeah, it's gonna take a minute to do that. But otherwise, pretty much all the other setups, say you want to go from this to an easy rig, you just pull the roll out, you can mount the roll ring to an easy rig.
It'll be down here.
You can either, or you could just mount an easy rig to this. Yeah.
Right, yeah,
But
so flip it over.
You can't just use roll. So if you want to lock roll and just use it like a dumb physical camera, you can do that. Or you can turn roll stabilization on, and your easy rig can stabilize your roll as well. So for most setups, it's not going to take you a long time to go from A to B, except unless you want to go straight to the shoulder.
What's the estimated weight of the new one? I know it's a little heavier.
Yeah, this one is 14 or 16. The goal is 12. So this one is like 14 and a half. So we added more weight to that. Yeah, you can fit a Venice too. Yeah, so it'll be able to take up to like 30, 40 pounds. We're still working on exactly the thing.
Which is more than what's the XL rated at? Movi XL.
50. Yeah.
50.
Yeah. The XL will do bigger and especially weirder shapes.
Shapes, yeah.
So if you want to do like a 435, an XL is going to do.
What's the rating on a SRH? Does anybody know? Yeah.
The problem with that is that head weighs
A lot.
28.
Right.
So, but it can do.
I think it could do like
60.
Yeah, it's like 66 pounds or something.
But it's. But it. Well, so that's a shame. Motor lock, right? That's pointing straight down. That's maybe a problem here.
Yeah, so we are conceptualizing a fourth axis for it. Since everything is modular and there is already a network here, it really wouldn't be hard for us to add a fourth axis. The idea with the fourth axis for us currently is like a little 15-degree plate and another motor here, and that way the camera that would be a slow-moving axis that would just move the camera away from gimbal lock. So if the camera starts to approach gimbal lock, which is, by the way, gimbal lock is this. In this configuration, the camera can tilt and it can roll, but it can't pan side to side image relatively. With the fourth axis, it would be more like it would give it the ability to avoid that. So it would basically move the base away from that gimbal lock position. So if you start tilting towards it, it would move all the motors to avoid that from impacting the image. So with the fourth axis, you could hang this from a Technocrane and be able to get any frame you want.
And you could configure this with just one tilt motor. If you were a light enough payload,
Yeah.
you could take your fourth motor there and make that other fourth motor. So you can reconfigure that in theory.
Yes, yeah, potentially, yeah. So right now, the way it works is every single one of these motors is basically a single axis inertia wheel system, and we just tell it in software what motor it is. So this one knows it's a tilt motor, it knows it's a right tilt motor, this one knows it's a left tilt motor, this is a pan, this is a roll. So you can reassign them in software. So if you took this one and you wanted it here, and you just wanted a little simple 2-axis pan tilt head, you could take 2 tilt motors, put them together on a bracket. You tell this one it's a pan, this one it's a right tilt. And same thing with the stabilization. They're going to do the best they can with the IMUs they already have to stabilize the image, even though it's a 2-axis system.
And essentially all that's going to be done through the inertial wheels for now?
If you rebuild it, you're probably going to have to plug it into a computer. Yeah, yeah, that's a little tricky to configure. There will be a software app to do that with the computer. So each of these ports, each axis is going to have a port. That's the same port you use for firmware updates, just a different cable. And the same, you'll use the same one to plug into your receiver. So that same one, there will be a USB cable. You take that, plug it into a computer, and then you can change some of those advanced settings with it.
Have you given any thought to a thumb controller?
Yes.
Because of the Trinity.
Yeah, so we want to
thing.
do a mini inertia wheel, a tiny little one that you'd be able to mount onto the side, or you could take it and you could put it on your what do they call that? Your grip.
Yeah, the gimbal handle.
Your gimbal handle on a Steadicam, and it would we could do like. You can make it a spring-based rocker, so the motor would make it feel like a spring if you wanted it that sort of like tilting action, or it could be an inertia wheel, which is like direct drive for tilt.
Oh, that would
give
be
it a little bit
interesting.
of inertia.
Okay. Having tried multiple thumb controllers, my preference is always for the force pressure style,
Right. Yeah.
other than it's some sort of stick.
Right. Which we can do all
But
that with software.
with a mini inertia wheel setup, you can have the same feel, sort
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, all that a joystick force is, they use like springs and stuff
Right.
to create pressure at relative positions. We can do all that with software in
Right.
the inertial motors. We could make this turn into a little, spring-based wheel.
Right.
So yeah, so it'd be a little one that you could also put on the side here if you're in if you're using it like a fluid head tripod that gives you like some quick adjustments to be able to adjust the fluid, mass and drag, counterbalance, that sort of stuff.
Will you be able to power the camera?
Yes. Yeah, so there's a power bus that runs through. If you plug in 24 volts, you're getting 24 volts. The head is designed to use up to 48 volts. So, be careful.
But it has pass-through cable.
Yes, yeah.
And a lot of concern about two things. Weight, what's the payload?
The payload is like 30 to 40 pounds. We're still working it out.
40 pounds.
No, the payload. The weight's around 12-ish.
My camera can weigh 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we don't know that cameras are not symmetrically weighted, so you don't care about the side-to-side weight?
No, we do care about the side-to-side weight.
No,
Now,
I mean like in terms of balance.
yeah,
Stick it in?
no, you should care about the side-to-side weight. For example, what I've done here, and it's very crude, is like this has the card slot over here, so I've added another one of these over there. That's kind of enough to get this in a good enough spot. Is it perfectly balanced? No. Does it need to be? No. The roll motor is this big, so it has a tremendous amount of leverage. Yeah, this is the roll motor on the inside there. So I mean, you can imagine. I mean, this is more leverage than a door handle has, just from the distance. So it can balance a poorly balanced camera with half a watt of electricity. So it doesn't need a lot on the balance on the roll side of things. Now in a Steadicam world, especially when you're doing a lot of dynamic moves, it does become really important that your balance is as good as you can get. But that being said, you really only have to balance it once because you're just balancing the camera body and the camera body isn't moving. So, just kind of need to know, dial it in, at the beginning.
So right now, the power solution is just TB50s?
Yeah, TB50, this one's running off of a block battery.
Block battery.
Yeah. So it can do 10 to 48 volts is what we're designing it for. So if you're using it like a Movi, small camera, and you're not touching it, you could run it off of the onboard battery on the camera because it doesn't need these motors are big, so they don't need a lot of electricity just to stabilize the small camera. If that's all you're doing, stabilize the small camera, you can run it off 10 volts. The more you want to grab it and tilt and pan it and whip pan it, those things require electricity on demand. So in order to counteract your movements, especially if you have big arms, like it's one thing people don't realize is the bigger your arms, the wheel is actually stabilizing your arms. So it requires more electricity for you. So if you want to whip pan this and use a ton of energy, then yeah, you'll need a bigger battery with more amperage. So amperage too is relevant. It can pull up to 20 amps. You'll be able to limit that in software. So say your battery is only capable of 12 amps. You can tell it in software you want it to only be able to pull 12 amps before it gives out.
Are you limited on volt?
No.
How fast? Like, I know it's super
We're
strong. You said.
faster than is safe. Yeah. So it will probably, it's this is a very strong motor. Yeah, these motors are designed for really fast motion. Unlike a Trinity, there's no belt drives in this. This is just one giant big motor.
How is it currently pulling power? Is it from external batteries, or like is it doing the TB50 plates? Or?
It's
block.
pulling
Oh, you're
from
doing
the
block
block
right now. Okay. How are you planning on? Are you going to make your own battery system or anything like that?
No, not really. We're going to work with Ignite to do a lot of battery plates, so TB50 will probably be one. I'm sure other
TB51
So
now.
there could be
third parties.
There could be future, like, if say if DJI stops making TB50s,
Yeah.
Ignite makes a new thing and you guys adapt to
Yeah,
it.
because we envision this as like a tripod head, and your
Yeah.
tripod head doesn't die when batteries go out of style. That it lives on. So we wanted to have the same philosophy to this. that
So
it's
is
better.
there an element too where, like, as a tripod head, can it be non-stabilized like a sparrow head?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it requires more energy to be non-stabilized, because you need to force the camera to be locked into the base. You know,
Yeah.
stabilization requires
I'd-
actually very little energy because you're not fighting the inertia of the camera. The camera wants to be in the same position, so the motors are not fighting that.
Yeah. But I would say one of the things that's very attractive about the proposition is the idea that I have a non-stabilized head
Yeah.
also.
Right.
And it'll
Yeah.
still work with the wheels and the non-stabilized mode?
Yes. Yeah. So but the trick is your like payload capacity is going to drop.
Sure.
Like you can't take a
It's all
40
electricity
pound
based.
Venice to put it on a car rig and tell it to be non-stabilized.
You get like that one
It's-
shot in a commercial where you can shrink it, the package.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you need to, you want to put a Komodo on this and turn it into a non-stabilized head, it may work on a relatively, it may work on a car rig that's not too bumpy, something like that.
Are there any limitations when you're using it like a tripod? Now, I have four thoughts I need to organize in my head. When you're using it like a tripod head, is it using stabilization or no?
We're not sure yet. We
Yeah,
haven't
still work- still
yeah,
work.
right now this one is not using stabilization, but we will give you the option to use
Is there
stabilization.
any limitation to using it in the tripod head mode without stabilization? Like if you're putting on a dot, like
The only limitation is amperage and current. So it's about your battery, your power supply.
it wouldn't be a problem to try to do like a 30-pound non-stabilized setup in a tripod mode. Obviously,
Yeah, it just depends on, it all depends on what external forces you're asking the motors to match, basically.
But like traditional dolly and stuff like that.
Right, yeah, it should be fine.
But in a car, obviously.
So,
Would you be able to like stabilize the fan and the tilt and then?
yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
All right, great. Well,
Can we go back to Canbuster real quick?
yeah.
Did you say price point?
Yeah, it's $950. Okay. Available now. Available now. Okay, cool.
So I'm going to open up, the assembly room is 2 doors down, 1118, so I'm going to open that up, if you care to pop your head in and see where we assemble and QC everything.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So yeah, guys, so this is what's called the RDX. So this box allows you to talk to the Maxima, so you can use this to control Maxima, Trinity 1, and a few other heads. It also is controlling the new Sony, this Sony PTZ camera. I forget what it's called, but you can control it with the wheels. And then
But it's also like when he was
using this new Canbuster here, you can now control the Inspire 3 camera, as well as the Ronin4D camera. right there. All right. All right, guys. Probably do a couple more videos. If you have any questions, if you want to purchase anything that you saw in today's video, it's all on our website. You can go over there and buy the products whenever you want. If you want something that you don't see there, just hit me up in the DMs and we'll take care of you. All right, so that's it for today's event. So we're here at the Nodo Open House, the guys that make the Inertia wheels, and now the new TORQ head. And that's it. I'm gonna post this live, so in case you're joining us here at the end, you can go back and watch. Lots of good information was shared and talked about here today. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one.